everyone, Voodoo here, and today I am here with the 10.1 tier list. Now 10.1 officially drops today at like 6 p.m. Eastern or whatever, whenever the servers come up, but Season 2 of Dragonflight starts next Tuesday, so this means that this is tier list week. So throughout the week, today, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, I'll have a tier list video each day giving you guys my thoughts on what the classes and specs are going to be looking like and shaking up going into Dragonflight Season 2. Now, of course, few things, caveat, tier list thing every single time. These are my thoughts, so if you disagree with me, that's okay. Just be civil about it. No need to call me stupid or anything like that. Second thing, pick the player, not the class. Players are almost every single time going to be much better to bring than just whatever tank is meta. If you have a great player but they only one trick something, then just bring that instead. Not necessarily needed to have them swap unless it makes things significantly easier. Like some fights, you kind of need a certain tank to do them. But otherwise, pick the player over the class. Your best players will almost always make up your best raid or Mythic Plus team. That's just kind of the facts of the game. That won't really change. With that out of the way, though, we are going to get into the tank tier list today. We have 6 tanks, going to rank them in Raid and Mythic Plus, and then tomorrow healers, and then DPS Thursday and Friday. So with that out of the way, we'll get into it. Of course, like the video, comment down below if I'm wrong, if I'm right, and hit the sub button if you want to see more. So, Prot Paladin is going to be up in S tier. Prot Paladin is incredibly strong. They have a pretty strong tier set. Heartfire gives them more shield damage, and the Grand Crusaders give them more shields. Well, that won't be as big of a deal in Raid, which is mostly single target. Prot Paladin's just utility is absolutely unmatched. Blessing of Spell Warding looks like it's going to make a ton of different abilities and mechanics pretty easy. They have really good damage, really good survivability. They can off-heal if you need to, which is kind of crazy. They bring a raid buff. You do want 2 paladins, one for Ret Aura, one for Devo Aura. So that can satisfy one of those 2 options there. All in all, Prot Paladin is just looking to be incredibly strong. I expect it to be the best tank in the raid. It deals really high damage, really high utility, very, very survivable, and I don't really think that will change. This is an S tier tank pretty easily. Next up is going to be Blood Death Knight. Now, Blood Death Knight, I think, is going to be in the A tier. I think they're a pretty strong tank. Their damage isn't the highest, but they do bring a lot of things that are pretty unique when compared to other tanks. There seems to be a knockback mechanic on the final boss, similar to Kill Jaden from Legion. And Death Knight's Death's Advance will make a pretty quick joke about that. So I do think that this will have a bit of a important aspect in the final few bosses. On top of that, though, their tier set is pretty strong. It gives them some pretty good single target damage. It lets them proc Vampiric Blood more often as well, and whenever they do, they get kind of a strength bonus. So I do think that'll be pretty strong. All in all, they're not kind of anywhere near as crazy as Prot Paladin is. Their utility isn't anything as insane, but I do think that the stuff they do bring, AMS, AMZ, Death's Advance, Grips, all that kind of thing, will be very useful in the raid, and I do think an A tier ranking is pretty good for them. Moving on to Brewmaster now, again up in A tier with them. So the buff classes this time, I think I'm going to rank them a little bit higher than I have in the past for a few reasons. One, Windwalker isn't looking that great in this tier because it's mostly single target, and we'll talk about that when we get to the other 2 warrior specs as well, other 2 buff specs. But all things considered, Brewmaster is a very strong tank. They bring really, really high single target damage, probably one of the highest damage tanks in the game. They're very survivable, especially against physical damage. They help you smooth out your healing curve with stagger and stuff like that. And the things they bring, like Ring and the monk debuffs, Generous Pour, the avoidance one, the healing one, and then the physical debuff, are all very valuable. I do think Mistweaver might be the best way to bring these in the next raid. But as things stand, Brewmaster is also a very good option. So I do think Brewmaster is pretty strong. Again, not as crazy as Prot Paladin, but I do think they're strong overall. Their tier stat gives them just some nice bonus damage to their Blackout Kick and to their Spinning Crane Kick and stuff like that. So just a nice passive damage increase, which is always pretty good, always nice to have. So I do think they're a very strong tank. Put them up in A tier. Next up is Prot Warrior. Prot Warrior ate a bit of nerfs coming into 10.1 throughout all the patches in 10.0, but they're still very strong. Their tier set is really good. More shield slam damage, more defensiveness uptime with bolster. You get like AoE shield slam, so it's pretty strong there. They bring Warrior Shout, the attack power one, which is pretty good, because in a tier where melee in general just aren't that good, Prot Warrior is going to be a pretty good option if you need to bring attack power, shout, or Rallying Cry, which is also a really, really powerful defensive cooldown. Probably the best one a tank can bring. AMZ, is debatable, but Rallying Cry is very good. They're just very good at dealing with damage profiles as well. Lots of physical damage in this raid, as well as the last one. So Prot Warrior, will be very good in that. They do respectable single target damage. I just don't think they have quite as insane of the damage or utility that Prot Paladin has. That's going to rank them down a little bit. Next up is Vengeance. I'm going to put Vengeance in A as well. I think Vengeance's new tier set really allows them to get a ton of utility and use in the raid. So for those that don't know, their tier set, the first one makes it so that whenever you take in souls, basically you gain a stacking fire damage buff. And then the other one, the 4 set, makes it so that every 20 souls, you put a fiery brand on your target whenever you use your main builder. And it also makes your builder deal fire damage. So all your damage can be fire. You're going to have a ton of brands on the target, really high brand uptime, which helps to shore up Vengeance's weakness of kind of lapse in their defensiveness. It helps them bring a ton of single target damage too, because while brand is up, you're doing 40% more fire damage, and every single one of your abilities, except for like the Hunt, I'm pretty sure that's literally the only one that isn't fire. So you're bringing a ton of DPS as Vengeance Demon Hunter, which is very, very powerful. You're very mobile. You have a lot of tools to help with auto movement and displacement effects that are found in this raid. And on top of that, you also bring Chaos Brand, which is a very important thing to note. Havoc Demon Hunter did get buffed, but overall, I don't think they're the most strong DPS going into this raid. You might run one, but if you have a good Vengeance Demon Hunter, then you'll be very excited and happy to run that Vengeance in your comp. They will not be bad by any means. They'll bring good damage. They will be able to survive, very mobile. Darkness is nice too. It's not the craziest defensive raid CD out there, but it's nice to have. All in all, I do think they're pretty powerful and do deserve an A tier ranking. And last but not least is Bear. I'm going to put Bear in B, and I think this one I'm going to be wrong about because Bear has all the makings to be good. I'm just not quite sure if they have that damage to be able to compete with the rest of them. So Bear's tier set is very powerful. It gives them more damage, more rage generation. Remember, they take damage. And also gives them a stacking max HP increase, which is very good because max HP is kind of how Bear deals with magic, making it actually a lot better dealing with magic damage. I'm putting it down in B because Bear has really just struggled so far. But the tier set is really powerful and does definitely allow it to have that potential to move up into an A tier. I don't think it'll be S. I don't think it's going to beat Prot Paladin or anything like that. But I do see the tier set being pretty powerful and could maybe help move it up the ranks into the higher tiers. I still think they do need a bit of a damage boost still. I do think their damage is pretty low compared to the others. Of course, they can like cat weave and stuff, which has a lot of off-tank damage. While they're actively tanking, the damage is a little bit less. But again, because of that tier set, I am hesitant to put them in B, but I am going to hedge my bets here a bit and put them down in B. We'll see later on if this is the right spot for them or not, but this is where I'm going to put them for now. They are strong. They can do all the content, but I do think they're a little bit worse than the rest tanks above them. So these are my raid rankings. Again, everybody, every single class, every single spec in the game can do everything in the raid. Everybody here is going to get CE. There's not like, you'll see 0 Bear Druids getting CE. They're all very good. They're all very viable. This is just kind of how they rank against each other in terms of power, in terms of maybe ease on your playstyle, stuff like that. So this is my raid rankings. We're going to move on to the M+ rankings now. All right, so here we are with the Mythic Plus rankings. Again, few things. I said this at the beginning of the other section, but this is for higher keys, way up like 24s plus, stuff like that. And always a big proponent of bringing the player, not the class. A more skilled player on a seemingly quote-unquote worse class will probably be way better for you than old Ricky on his Prot Paladin, and Ricky's never done a plus 20 in his life, So, keep that in mind. If you see a Bear Druid or a Blood DK apply with like 3,700 IO, well, that's a lot. 3,100 IO. They're probably way better than the Flavor of the Month guy with 2,700. That's just going to be a fact. Keep that in mind as we go forward. Out of the way, we'll move on to the rankings. Prot Paladin S tier. Whoa, no one's surprised. Prot Paladin is crazy. They bring a ton of damage, a ton of survivability, and a lot of utility. They did eat some nerfs recently. But overall, with like gear later on in the patch, you'll hit numbers that you will now anyways. So it's not that big of a deal. They just have less Sentinel uptime, a little bit less damage as well. But their tier set is really good. The Heartfire dot is really good with the number of shields you throw out. The reset with Grantor's Crusader gives you a ton more shields, ton of AoE damage, ton of single target damage, ton of utility. They can off heal. I got a healer buddy who kind of hates them because of their off healing capabilities. They just do so much. They're so good. S tier very easily, very, very, very strong. Next up, I'm going to put Brew up in A tier, actually. I think Brew is one of the higher damaging tanks this tier. I think that'll actually do very well for them. Their tier set gives them more damage on Blackout Kick, which cleaves, thanks to a talent, and then also on Spinning Crane Kick, which also, hey, AoE damage. So all in all, Brewmaster will have very strong damage. They bring good enough utility, Ring of Peace, the Cage, I don't remember its name. Para, that's what it is. They bring Para, they bring Leg Sweep. They do bring a Disease Dispel, which is good for both, it might be Poison, but they can do Afflicted, and I'm pretty sure they could be very good in Brackenhide, not 100% certain on that, but pretty sure. Same with Prop Paladin, they also have that Dispel. So being able to handle the new affixes pretty easily. They also bring a Root Dispel for the Entangling one, or I guess it's a slow, but whatever. They bring Tiger's Lust. So altogether, I think they'll be very, very good, very, very strong, and will do a lot of damage, have good utility. Just a little bit worse than Prop Paladin, so they're down in A tier. Next up, Prop Warrior. Again, very strong. Their tier set gives them like AoE shield slams, which is super, super powerful. Nothing else is really changing for Prop Warrior coming into this patch. They're very strong defensively, very strong offensively. They have really good damage profiles, really good utility with like Shout and some stuns and stuff. They fall behind Prot Paladin a little bit because I do think Prot Paladin's utility is better. Prot Warrior doesn't really have any way of dealing with Afflicted at all and has a few limited ways of dealing with Incorporeal. So that is a little bit worse. They don't really have that hard CC. They don't really have any form of disease spell or anything like that. So that is, a bit of a negative for them, but they're very strong overall, very, very powerful tank, and I do think they deserve an A tier. I'm going to put Blood down in B tier. I could be wrong about this one. It's probably my biggest, maybe I'm wrong about this one. But Blood will fall over in the higher fort keys to just kind of get globaled. Top of that, their damage isn't anything crazy. Their tier set helps them with like Vamp Blood uptime and stuff like that. But there's a lot of tier set talent interactions that don't work with Vamp Blood. And there's also a 25% HP increase, but they didn't actually buff up some of their talents that work around Vamp Blood, which basically means that they're doing 25% less with that. I do think they can bring good utility with like grips and slows and things like that, but they also don't really have much in the way of dealing with Incorporeal or Afflicted, two of the new affixes. So I do think that does hurt them a bit. Definitely bumps them down a tier or so. But I do think they can be very powerful in the right hands. Definitely a tank that is very self-survivable, very, play with it in your own hands. Your fate is your own kind of tank. And I can't see them going up to A tier, but I think their damage overall is just a little worse. Their ability to just kind of get like globaled and fortified keys that are high enough is pretty detrimental, and overall their utility suite isn't anything crazy. Next up is Bear. I'm going to put Bear down in B as well. Again, could be wrong about Bear. I mentioned this in Raid, but their tier set is kind of really good. Raid generation, damage, and HP increase are all three things that Bear Druids love. But I don't think their damage is anywhere near enough to be there. They do bring some good utility. They all do have ways of dealing with both Incorporeal and Afflicted, which is nice. But I do think their damage, their survivability are just lower compared to the rest of them. And outside of that, like their group defensiveness isn't anything crazy. They bring Roar, but you don't really need Roar in a lot of dungeons. So kind of down in the B tier here. But overall, still a very viable tank. Still can do whatever you want with it. But I do think it's worse than the other options. And finally, Vengeance. I don't know how it ended up way over here. I'm going to put Vengeance in A, honestly. I do think the stuff with Fiery Brand is pretty good for them, and it helps them a lot with alleviating their issues. Having like defensiveness downtime. Basically, how it works now is something called lunchboxing. So you build up a 4-step proc. Their 2-step, by the way, very powerful. 2-piece gives them fire damage. 4-piece gives them more Fiery Brands and fiery damage. You build up a 4-piece proc of the Fiery Brand, then you apply your normal one, and you apply your 4-piece Fire Brand, and on top of it, like packs 2 of them, and you're able to get a lot of spreading from that Fiery Brand in a pack. So I do think that helps them out a bit. They're able to get a lot of Fiery Brand spreading out into the packs they're in. Gives them a lot of damage, a lot of defensiveness. Vengeance just kind of really pumps right now as well. Probably one of the higher one of the higher just damage tanks in the game. Do a ton of damage just passively with all the fire damage they do. Everything but the hunt is fire damage, so that's a ton of damage. And then they really just do a lot of self-sustain as well. I do think they're a little bit weaker. They don't have quite the utility Prop Paladin has. They might still have issues with defensiveness, although I personally think those aren't as bad right now. I think they're pretty much covered with their new tier set. But again, we'll see how it shakes up whenever the new thing comes live. But I do think Vengeance will be in a pretty good spot. So those are going to be my Mythic Plus tank rankings. Let me know down below if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right. Leave a like as well, really help me out, help spread the video to more people. And that is going to be it for the video today. So I have my raid rankings, have my Mythic Plus rankings. I'm going to reiterate this one more time. Pick the player, not the class. A player with like a higher ranking, a more skilled player will do well than a worse skilled player on the better tank. So if you got that Giga Chad 3300, 3600, 3500, whatever, Bear Druid, homie's probably gonna be a little bit better than that 2700 prop pal. You know what I'm saying? So really taking the player, not the class, should be done. Use these tier lists as a way to inform your decisions, not as a guide for your decisions, right? Do not just take what I'm saying as gospel. I could be wrong. People could be wrong. And you really don't want to use these as the only way you base things off of. Just use it to inform your decision, not to make your decision. So that's going to be it for the video, though. Again, drop a comment, leave a like, hit the sub button if you appreciated it. And I will see you guys tomorrow with the healer tier list. And also, I'll be streaming tonight because it is the launch of 10.1. So I'll be streaming on YouTube. So I will see you guys later. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace.